has everyone covered. Can your internet do that?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Inquirer Live at Gameday Central, presented by Xfinity. Today, we're back on the road, coming to you from MetLife Stadium, not quite New York, but East Rutherford, New Jersey, at the Meadowlands, where in a little bit the Eagles will take on the New York Giants. I'm Eagles beat reporter Josh Tolentino, and I'm joined by my fellow beat reporters EJ Smith and Jeff McLane. Guys, how's it going?
What's going on, Josh? I saw some flurries on my way up here, man. It's getting pretty cold out there.
Yeah, it looks like the snow has subsided, but it's definitely still cold out there. Devontae Smith was out there working out in shorts. But, before we get into everything, how's it going, Jeff?
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. Thanks for having me, I guess, for the first road Game Day Central appearance for me. And it's good to be here at MetLife Stadium again. I'm looking straight ahead, and I see the end zone where Deshaun Jackson walked into after Miracle at the Meadowlands Part 3, I think it was, many, many years ago, I guess, for me. But it's good to be back here.
A very iconic moment for the franchise. But I just want to remind everyone back at home watching throughout the season, we'll be coming to you from every game at home and on the road. And the link to find all our coverage at is at inquirer.com/GameDayCentral.
Yeah, Inquirer.com. Inquirer.com/Game Day Central is also where we like to hear from you, since I know a lot of you have plenty to say about our predictions each week. Here's an opportunity for your feedback to be heard live on air, and we all know how much Eagles fans love to give their opinions and not as much predictions, but just kind of telling us what's going to happen rather than what they think may happen.
Yeah, that's right, Jeff. We have a segment called What You Said, and it's one of my favorite segments, but it's kind of funny. It's supposed to be questions. A lot of times it ends up just being statements, just like very bold statements at that. So make sure to give us your feedback. We love to take it and add it to the segment.
Yeah, a lot of bold statements that we'll read off later, but all right, let's get into it, guys. A lot has happened since the last time that we gathered. Jeff, what's the latest with this team? They're one victory away from getting back to 500. They're taking on the last place team in the division with the Giants holding a 3-7 record. What's the latest, Jeff?
Well, I think, Josh, the biggest news for this team is that they're back in the playoff picture, and even with the Cowboys' loss on Thanksgiving to the Raiders, they're kind of still in the picture in terms of the division. They could they have 6 games here maybe to catch up to the Cowboys. I think more realistically, the wild card is more in play for them. If you look at the schedule, they have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. These last 6 games, their next 5 opponents all currently have losing records. So a win here against the Giants would certainly buoy those chances of getting it back into. I think they're a game and a half out right now in the division and a half game out in the wild card hunt. And of course, there's an extra playoff spot this year as they move to 17 games. 7 teams make the playoffs, so there's a chance the Eagles certainly could be one of those 2 teams. And the way that they've played these last several games, I don't think it's out of the picture.
EJ, Jeff mentioned the 6 remaining games. I think it's noteworthy to point out that this team and ourselves, we're not hopping on a plane anymore for the rest of the season. We're avoiding the holiday rush around this time in December, and the remaining road games, including this one, they were all bus trips, or they all will be bus trips. How significant is that, along with, I guess, what Jeff mentioned, the subpar opposition?
Yeah, no complaints on my end about that, and I don't think the team is complaining about that either. I mean, not only is it the easy part of the schedule. When you looked at the schedule going into the year, this was the part of the year that you thought they could make up some ground if they had lost ground, and I think that they played well in this this last 4-game stretch to sort of get them to this point where now they have a lot of division games against teams that you could honestly say they have a talent advantage over. For the first time all season right now, I think the Eagles are going into a game, maybe not the first time, but a rare occasion where I feel like they've got more talent on both sides of the ball than this Giants team. And like I said, it's kind of shaping up the way that they probably the best scenario they could hope for right now is, they've got like a 45% chance, according to Football Outsiders, of making the playoffs. And that win against the Saints last week, I don't want to belabor it, but that was a big win because now they have a tiebreaker over that team. And, Jeff, you mentioned Thanksgiving. The Saints lost on Thanksgiving. So now both teams have a 5-6 record. I think they'll overtake the Saints next week as far as like teams that have a higher likelihood of making it to the playoffs.
You mentioned the victory over the Saints, EJ. It's not just them. The other couple NFC teams in the hunt are, the Panthers are in there, the Falcons are in there, despite the season they've had. They're kind of right there in that picture with the Eagles, and the Eagles hold victories over both of those teams, and then including the Saints on top of that. But EJ, the inactives just came out. Let's focus first on the Eagles side. They're without Jordan Howard, Davion Taylor. Significant starting linebacker, in my opinion. I think that's a big loss for them. I know Jeff wrote on Miles Sanders for his Sunday piece, so let's focus on the defense for a second. EJ, how do you see Davion Taylor's absence impacting the team?
Yeah, I think it's more of a long-term impact than a short-term one. Alex Singleton will probably step in for him. And, Singleton is not the athlete that Davion Taylor is. Taylor's easily the most athletic linebacker on the team. He's a sideline-to-sideline guy. He's better in coverage. But, Singleton has got game experience. He's made plays in this league. Like, I think that long-term, the team was happy to have Taylor on the field, sort of, playing through some mistakes, sort of learning on the fly, gaining some experience. But, as far as it will impact this game, I don't know how steep the drop off is between the two guys.
Yeah, I think linebackers still a position of need that they need to concentrate in regards to upgrading personnel in the offseason. They've definitely got the draft stock to address those needs. But, Davion Taylor and TJ Edwards, those were some nice storylines in regards to their progression and development this year. Now, Davion Taylor, he hits that hurdle in regards to having surgery and heading to IR. On the offensive side, Jeff, Miles Sanders, someone you concentrated your Sunday piece on. What are your expectations for him in this game? And obviously Boston Scott behind him, Kenny Gainwell, with Jordan Howard being out with a knee injury.
Yeah, well, the Eagles have gone with the by committee approach at running back, which has benefited them as they've resurrected their offense over these last several weeks. And Jordan Howard had a lot to do with that. His north to south running, picking up extra yards after contact, finishing in the red zone. I mean, Jordan Howard has arguably been their best running back when active. Now, of course, he's out now with a knee injury. Could be a week, could be 2 weeks. But what that means for this team right now is that Miles Sanders has an opportunity to maybe log even more carries than it did last week. That being said, Boston Scott's a guy that you don't want to go away from, especially against the Giants. If you look at his career numbers, he's killed them. In 4 games, he's had over 200 yards rushing. He's had over 200 yards receiving. He's had 6 total touchdowns. So I can't see Nick Sirianni burying Boston just because he wants to get Miles a certain number of touches. Yeah, Miles is going to be the guy that gets the most snaps. He's going to be the guy that gets probably the most carries, assuming that Boston doesn't get a super hot hand. And then you mentioned Kenny Gainwell. The rookie was inactive for the first time last week because of Miles Sanders coming back from his ankle injury. It'll be interesting to see how they utilize him. We've seen over the course of the season when Kenny has been active, he's been the third down back. And Boston can certainly fill in that first or second down running back role. So that's probably what you'll see. You'll see a little bit of Miles, a little bit of Boston on first and second down, and then you'll probably see primarily Kenny on third down. That being said, Kenny's got to get better at blocking, and that could be an issue in this game.
Yeah, we've seen Kenny hit the end zone a few times already in his rookie season, but like what you mentioned, Jeff, he has had those moments where definitely overpowered in regards to blocking, pass blocking specifically for Jalen Hurts. EJ, you got the latest also on the Giants side of injuries. It looks like Saquon Barkley, he'll be playing. What are your expectations for him? But another offensive piece you might want to mention, Kadarius Toney, it looks like he's going to be out.
Yeah, no, the Giants are really banged up. If that's kind of the story of their season is offensively, they just haven't had the same guys in the lineup every week. So yeah, I mean, after the Monday night game, I think a lot of people were hoping that Kadarius Toney was going to continue that progress that he's making. He's really he's an explosive player. He's an electric player in their offense. He'll be out. He has a quad injury. They're also without Sterling Shepard, Kyle Rudolph, one of their tight ends. So yeah, this offense is really banged up. So I definitely, I think they'll lean on Saquon this game. I think Joe Judge, like we all know a little bit about his personality. I think that it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him sort of accept the challenge that the Eagles have put out the last couple of weeks, where the Eagles want to be tougher than you, more physical than you. That's kind of like Joe Judge's wheelhouse is like toughness, physicality. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them accept that challenge and really give Saquon a lot of touches. But yeah, you're right. Saquon will be in, but yeah, the Kadarius Toney injury especially, that's a big loss for this offense.
Another loss for the Giants side. Sterling Shepard also declared out for this game, so they're definitely missing a few key pieces on offense, but they do get Saquon back. Before we move on to what you said, Jeff, how do you think the Giants ridding Jason Garrett, offensive coordinator, how does that affect anything at all? Does that open their playbook more in regards to getting some of their playmakers like Kenny Galladay involved? How do you think that will affect this game?
Well, I mean, they only go one place, which is up after Jason Garrett, the job that he's done at offensive coordinator. I mean, it was brutal for many stretches of the season, and just not able to move the ball. Plays that are just inexplicable, where Daniel Jones drops, he's got no one open, no obvious reads for him to throw the ball. So I think, on that, if you look at it from that perspective, it can only get better. That being said, I don't know how much Freddie Kitchens is going to be the answer as an offensive coordinator. And I don't know how much they can change in the course of 1 week. Yes, there'll be some differences in terms of how he calls plays, but look, the personnel is the same, and essentially the offense is the same. So I don't think it's going to be that drastic for the for the Eagles in terms of their preparation this week and what we'll see out here on the field.
Yeah, Jeff, EJ, you guys were there at coordinator availability on Tuesday, and it seemed like Jonathan Gannon, he was really not trying to make that a point of emphasis for the team and their preparation, like what you mentioned. How much can they really change in the span of less than a week? As we transition on to our next segment, what you said, I want to remind everyone back at home, inquirer.com/GameDayCentral. That's where you'll be able to submit your comments that have a chance to appear on next week's show when we return to Lincoln Financial Field. Our first question / as EJ points out, statement is from Jersey Mark. He's discussing Jalen Hurts here. The evolution of the quarterback position moving forward, it overloads the defense with considerations and decision-making in reference to Jalen Hurts' ability to run. It causes hesitation in the rush, trying not to leave open, easy escape routes. When defenses do adjust for the running game, Hurts will be able to display his true passing capability. Jeff, I want to go to you on this one as someone who's covered Jalen dating back to last year, as you as well, EJ. How has Jalen Hurts progressed as a passer? I know over the past few weeks, specifically last week, I mean, we've seen his ability to run the ball. He had 3 rushing touchdowns this past week, but how is he maturing as a pure passer? And also not just that, but balancing when to stay in the pocket versus leave the pocket and create on his own.
Yeah, we certainly see glimpses and minor improvements for Jalen and how he throws from the pocket. I mean, that's very important. Clearly, in this league, you're not going to win a championship unless you can throw from that area, and you have to have proper movements when you do face a rush. And there was a pass a few weeks ago against the Broncos for me that really kind of raised my eyebrows in terms of Jalen's development. He had felt a little pressure inside after Jason Kelce got kind of beat. Moved to his left, kept his eyes downfield, kept both hands on the ball, was able to hit Dallas Goedert in straight. I mean, that's an elite throw, and that's not something that we've always seen from Jalen at quarterback. He's been prone to kind of leave once he feels that pressure. So we've seen bits in basically a few examples of Jalen improving. That being said, he's only thrown 14, 17, 20, less than 25 pass attempts in each of the last 4 games, which I think more than anything has probably helped him in terms of his passion. In terms of his passing. His efficiency has been better, and that in turn has helped the offense because they've been able to rely on the ground game, and you haven't been putting too much pressure on that arm. Big picture, I don't know. I mean, we don't know exactly how good of a passer Jalen can be. I think the sample size is still too small to make any definitive conclusions about how he will perform in that role. But again, I am seeing some improvements from Jalen as we go along here.
Yeah, over the past 4 weeks, he's only thrown for more than 150 yards just once in 4 games. And a lot of that has to do with the offensive game plan and how effective the rushing game has been. EJ, I want to go to you on this next question, or really, again, another statement from Ace Pilot. He says, let's get Watkins more involved. I'm going to you for this specifically because you wrote on JJ Arcega-Whiteside getting a little bit involved in the passing game. He had that crucial catch last week to really seal the game. What's the message to Jalen Reagor, to Quez Watkins, like mentioned in this comment, that all these passes, they're not really passing the ball much, but most of these targets are going to 88 Dallas Goedert and number 6 Devontae Smith. Not much elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, when you throw the ball 15, 20 times a game, that's going to happen. Guys aren't going to get a ton of targets, especially. I mean, I don't think anybody would suggest that Devontae Smith is getting too many targets right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I think Watkins' role in the offense is a good one. He's a guy that can keep, defenses honest, keep a safety over the top. He's a deep threat, and he's kind of evolving into somebody who can run a full route tree. But, I mean, I think when it comes to Watkins and even Jalen Reagor, JJ Arcega-Whiteside is an extension too. It's like, the opportunities are going to be limited and you have to capitalize on those opportunities when you get them. I mean, we've seen Jalen Reagor struggle a little bit recently with those opportunities. He's had some end arounds, sort of manufactured looks, and hasn't really capitalized on them. And I think that, as far as Watkins' role, again, like I said, I think what you're seeing from him is what you should expect. For the most part, he's a deep threat. He's a guy who, again, defenses have to account for, but I still think this team kind of is still looking for that wide receiver 2 opposite of Devontae Smith right now. Somebody who you can count on at the same level as you can count on Smith right now.
Exactly, EJ, and we'll go to one last question here, or I guess, again, another statement from David McCann. Jeff, I want to go to you for this one. It focuses on the offensive line and Jeff Stoutland. It does not matter how teams adjust. They have no answers for the Eagles' offensive line. We can just ram it down their throats. Jeff, the offensive identity has been a big topic throughout the season. What happens if over these last 6 games? Do they continue to run the ball until they can't anymore? That's a phrase that Lane Johnson used earlier in the week, or, as EJ mentioned, getting more offensive playmakers involved. How do you see Nick Sirianni focusing his point of emphasis these last 6 weeks?
Well, I think we saw last week against the Saints, number 1 ranked defense coming in, and people questioned whether the Eagles would be able to run the ball and do that, just impose their will against an offense. And they did that. And they did so successfully, running for about 242 yards. So they can do it. That being said, there will be times when they just can't do it. And as Jason Kelce said this past week, yeah, if they go zero coverage and they got 8 guys in the box and, you can't match them man for man in terms of your blocking, you're going to have to throw some. And if you have opportunities down the field to get Devontae Smith in the one-on-one coverage, or you get Dallas Goedert open versus zone coverages, you're going to throw the ball. Jalen can do that. So I don't think that you have to just kind of try and jam a square peg into a round hole all the time just to do so. A good offenses are able to adjust. That being said, as you mentioned, or at least as the reader mentioned, I think they're still going to try and run the ball, do what's worked. There's no reason why they shouldn't. And if it isn't working, these 1 or 2 drives, don't give up on it so early, right? We saw that earlier in the season. That became an issue. All of a sudden, they couldn't run the ball on their own. They threw their hands up and said, you know what? We're not going to run the ball anymore. Well, I don't think we've seen that out of Nick Sirianni over the last month, and I don't think we'll see that over these next few weeks, as long as they're able to do it over a sustained period.
Yeah, I remember specifically to Halloween, which is about exactly a month ago. And Lane Johnson, Jason Kelce, after the game, they came up to us and said that they went up to Nick Sirianni mid-game, and they just said, we have to keep running the ball, that they were dominating down there in the trenches. And that's really been the story throughout the past month. Again, Nick Sirianni, first-year play caller, still learning the ins and outs of adjusting to a game, and not even considering play calling aside, a lot for him to learn through this first year as a first-year play caller. Transitioning to our tweet of the week. EJ, you picked this tweet, and it's a familiar face. What was this week's tweet of the week, EJ?
Yeah, shout out to Jeff McLane, our very own.
There he is.
Pointed out Boston Scott's 4 games against the Giants, and we talked a little bit about it earlier, but he's got 26 carries for 222 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's had 14 catches for 210 yards and a touchdown. touchdown. I mean, I guess, I just wanted to point out, sometimes this type of stuff happens. A guy, for whatever reason, has just had a team's number. And we've seen Boston Scott, we call him the giant killer. It's kind of like a David and Goliath scenario here. But I mean, yeah, I'm looking at this field and I'm just remembering the last time I watched Boston Scott, even like, there's just so many memories of Boston Scott and like big plays he's made in this stadium, and obviously back at the link against the Giants. So yeah, I think it's an important thing to keep in mind. Everything's sort of shaping up for Boston Scott to have a role here. Jordan Howard being out, Miles Sanders still kind of easing his way back in and having a few mistakes last week. I think you will see Boston Scott get a good amount of work this week, this afternoon, and I think that the fact that he's had these performances is something to keep in mind.
Jeff, if you are Nick Sirianni and running backs coach Eric Singleton, do you feed the hot hand? Do you continue the committee approach? How do you kind of see that going about today, especially considering, like in your tweet, Jeff, Boston Scott has had a lot of success against these New York Giants?
Yeah, I think they'll stick with the by committee approach. I mean, maybe if Miles gets super hot and Boston can't get anything going. That being said, I mean, it comes down to the offensive line. If they're pushing guys off the ball, if they're creating holes for these running backs to run through, I don't think there's any reason to think one guy is going to be hotter than the other. I mean, Miles, I think, has more talent across the board than Boston, but Boston is, been an underdog his entire career. And if there's a game to give him a few more touches, then this is it. As you mentioned, EJ, we've seen plays happen right here, right in front of us. I think it was 3 touchdowns a few seasons ago, a 56-yard touchdown at one point. Back at the link, he had the game-winning touchdown last year in a game I don't think anyone thought that they would win late. So Boston has certainly been a guy that a lot of people have overlooked in his entire career. He's still hanging around. Early in the year, he was a guy that was kind of the odd man out, didn't get very many touches. But when Miles got hurt and then they started focusing more on the run game, Boston was able to step right in there and do what he's always done. So he's a guy that you always want on your team in terms of his character, in terms of what he brings to the locker room. And now this year, when he hasn't been running on special teams. So I think we'll see some Boston Scott here, along with Miles Sanders, of course, and Kenny Gabriel. So
that 5-second long spin move, I think, was right here. Remember that?
Yes,
one? Yeah.
The one that Deuce Staley made fun of him about. Yeah,
that was a pretty long spin.
It was even dating back to the preseason. They had joint practices against the Jets, and obviously the preseason game here, Boston Scott had an explosive run that game. So the giant killer, as we all see, and we'll see what plays he has in store today. Before we move on to our anticipated predictions, one topic I want to run back to is I actually just saw cornerback Darius Slay run out on the field before going back to the tunnel. What's the significance of him clearing the concussion protocol, EJ? And he's playing at such a high level. I mean, there were some doubts last year when they gave him that big contract, but this year it seems like he's really. And one thing you guys we all have to consider is that Jonathan Gannon has been brought in here, and at the beginning of the season was basically asking Slay to do something he wasn't used to doing, which was not playing man and playing a lot of zone. But despite it all, it seems like Darius Slay is having a Pro Bowl caliber season. Both of you guys have touched on Slay throughout the year. Just significance of him being in the lineup today, EJ.
Yeah, I mean, he's their number one corner, and you're right. He's proven this year that he has. He's proven that he can play in a lot of different systems. Some corners, they are man corners, or they're press corner, they're press man corners, off man corners. They're zone corners. I think Slay's proven he can do just about everything. The way he's played this year has really, again, illustrated that. And I think he's benefited a lot. You mentioned Gannon. Gannon's been mixing it up a little bit more. They kind of, I mean, honestly, I think it's fair to say that Dave actually had an about face also. They started the year 2 deep safety almost all the time, lots of soft zone coverage, and we've seen them run a lot of single high man, a lot of single high safety coverages, just more blitzes. And I think Slay has been the beneficiary of that in a lot of cases. It's given him an opportunity to make more plays, be able to play a little bit more a familiar scheme. But you're right. I mean, he has really been able to do everything for them this season, and having him in the lineup against, his former teammate, Kenny Galladay, that's going to be a huge boon for this defense for sure.
Jeff, at the beginning of the season, could you imagine Darius Slay having more touchdowns than Kenny Galladay? I don't think Kenny Galladay's yet to record a single receiving touchdown yet this season.
No, and as Darius Slay pointed out this past week, I think he only had 1 previous touchdown in his career, so 3 in 1 year is exceptional, and it speaks to how well he's played this year. I mean, Look, Darius, he signed a big contract after the Eagles trade for him last year, and there was questions about how effective he was. I think for the most part, he performed well. The problem was when he was matched up against one receiver, he got toasted. I mean, DK Metcalf had his number. Uh, you know, I guess in Green Bay, Devontae Adams had his number as well when he was matched up against him. I don't think that was for the entire game. So people were like, okay, we signed this top cornerback to follow top receivers, and he can't shut them down. So, why did we do so? But those are tough. Those are tough in today's NFL. That's a tough job for a cornerback. And I think what we've seen over this year is while Darius has played a little more zone than he previously is accustomed to, as EJ mentioned, I mean, he can do it all. He's always said that he'll do whatever is asked of him. And for the most part, he has. Now, he did follow a receiver in Carolina. Was it
DJ Moore?
DJ Moore.
Yes. And he did a very
and
he did a very good job in that game. As you mentioned, EJ, Jonathan Gannon has played a little more aggressive here, but I think we do have to point out that a lot of the reasons why the Eagles defenses have played better is look at the quarterbacks. And, Daniel Jones has had his success against the Eagles over the years. And, obviously everything that's going on with the offensive coordinator situation could affect how he performs moving forward. That being said, I don't think he's a top tier quarterback, and I expect Jonathan to play a little more aggressive here again on Sunday. Will he play a lot? Will he play his fair share of cover 2? Probably, but I think he's got a little bit of more of a formula, a little more of a feel for his personnel, and you'll see a little more blitzing. You'll see a little more guys playing closer to the line.
Yeah, I just want to quickly jump in here and, mention you talked about Daniel Jones and sort of how he's playing this year. I feel like he's at his worst when, he's got pressure in his face. I mean, I know that applies to most quarterbacks, but Daniel Jones in particular, he's turnover prone. When pressured, it seems like he sort of gets panicked. And, I think when the Eagles do have success against him, it's when they can get pressure on him for sure.
I'm going to go on a limb here and just make a bold ad-lib prediction that I think one of the Eagles cornerbacks, maybe Avonte Maddox or Darius Slay, ends up with a sack or two today as we see Jonathan Gannon dial up the pressure. Guys, let's move on to predictions. And before we get to our game predictions that were in Sunday's edition of the Philadelphia Inquirer, a couple over-unders. Jalen Hurts passing is set at 202.5. EJ, Jeff, give me an over and under and a quick explanation. I'm going to go under.
Yeah, I'm taking the under. I think that at some point the Eagles are going to have to prove that they can throw the ball with regularity as teams load up the box and just sort of try and figure out ways to stop the run. But I don't know if it's going to be needed in this game. I don't think based off my prediction, I don't want to tease too much, but based off my prediction, I don't think they're going to be playing from behind. I don't think they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. So I'll take the under.
Yeah, I feel the same way, guys. With picking the Eagles to win, I think they're going to run a fair amount, and that's just will keep the ball out of Jalen's hands in terms of throwing it. There's going to come a time where he's going to have to throw more than usual. There's going to come a time when he's going to hit over 200 yards. I mean, you look at the way he's thrown the last several weeks, it's around 150-yard average. But so at some point, the law of averages say he's going to go over 200. This may be it, but I'm going to go with the under.
Yeah, you bring up his average over the past 4 games. He has not thrown for more than 200 yards since the Las Vegas game, October 24 against the Raiders when he threw for 236. 2 more for you guys. Devontae Smith's receiving yards is set at 55.5. We've seen that when they do throw the ball, they do target Devontae, and like what we mentioned, Dallas Goedert a lot in the passing game when they do throw the ball. Over under 55.5 on Devontae Smith. I'm going to go the over.
Go ahead, EJ. Yeah, well, I was going to jump in here because I think last week, EJ, you set it at 60.5, right? And he's 61. I think we both picked the over. We got over by a half of a yard. So a little lower this week. I'm not really sure why you did so, but maybe it's because his numbers dipped a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. Were you thinking the way the game was going? I don't know, but I'm going to go with the over as well, just because I think Devontae is still their number one option. And when they do throw, it'll be most likely to him and, of course, Dallas Goedert. But a good opportunity here for him to, tough cornerbacks. James Bradbury is pretty good. And we'll see whoever else he's matched up against. But I think Devontae may have a few more than 55.5 today.
You know what? I might take the under here. I think that, based off the way the Giants have looked this season, you're right. It's tough cornerbacks. And I think, the Giants spent a lot of time in sub packages. I think if I had to pick a player to have a big game today, I'd pick Dallas Goedert. So, I'll take the under.
Okay.
Yeah, disappointing to see that Kadarius Toney again injured. As we see this receiver clash, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Kadarius Toney. Bateman. You like to see how these guys stack up against each other in their production throughout their rookie season. So they'll continue to carry that comparison, as we know, Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson, really throughout the rest of their careers. Last over under guys, and I'm actually surprised that Boston Scott was not listed on many books that I saw, but Miles Sanders rushing is set at 64.5. Again, he was the only Eagles running back. Jalen Hurts had his numbers there, but Miles Sanders is set at 64.5 rushing yards. Based on our conversation, I think we're leaning towards the over.
Josh, I didn't know you got this numbers from a book. I thought you just came up with them yourself. I was impressed.
No.
That you figured out.
The FanDuel Sportsbook, which is right next to MetLife Stadium,
maybe we can get them as sponsors. FanDuel, right? If you guys are listening, Josh is using your information. I'm going to go under. I think Boston's going to get his fair share of touches, as will Kenny Gainwell, and I know Miles performed well last week. Probably would have went over 100 yards if he didn't run out of bounds during that 4-minute drill and it was yanked because the coaches had to tell him again, "Hey, dude, don't run out of bounds." But I'm going to go with under just because I don't know.
Oh man, I feel like I sound like a contrarian now, but I'll take the over. I mean, I feel like at least one of the Eagles running backs will probably get over 80. That's kind of been the track record. So yeah, I'll take the over on that.
Miles Sanders just took the field. He just came out of the tunnel, so maybe EJ saw that and was like, I'll take the over.
His ears were burning. He heard us talking. Yeah,
he's looking pretty quick. All right, guys, it's that time. It's prediction time. I believe in today's version of the Philadelphia Inquirer, we all took the Eagles. Are we sticking with that prediction here on Game Day Central?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with mine. I think that this is, again, like I said earlier in the show, the Eagles have a talent advantage, especially now with how the injuries on the Giants offense. They got a talent advantage on both sides of the ball. This game means a lot to them, obviously, as they enter the playoff hunt. So, yeah, I picked them, I think, to win by like 10 points or something like that, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, you know what? I can't change my pick at this point. Nothing significant has happened since I wrote it on Thursday. Look, I mean, the defense the Giants have has been pretty good. I mean, they've kept good offenses like the Chiefs in check, the Raiders in check, something the Eagles couldn't do. So you have to factor that into the equation here. So there's always a possibility that the Giants will come out and really keep this offense limited. So this isn't a foregone conclusion. I mean, the Eagles aren't going to, they're not going to come out here and automatically just kind of based upon what you think of them going to dominate. Is that possible? Certainly, the way they've played the last several weeks. I mean, when they've won games, they've won by double-digit scores. So anything is possible. This is a team a little bit in turmoil. If you look at the Giants after the firing of Jason Garrett, Joe Judge, you have to wonder if he's a lame duck coach. You have to wonder if the guys are going to keep playing for him. We're still in November, so it's not like you're at the end of the season yet. But I think the matchup wise, I did like the Eagles a little bit, and I think a lot of it, as we mentioned before, comes up against that offensive line that the Giants have had. It seems like every year it's an issue for them. They can't protect. They can't open holes, and I think that the Eagles D-line, while it's not as formidable as it has been in previous years, there's enough there to get to Daniel Jones. And EJ, as you mentioned before, Daniel Jones is one of the worst quarterbacks when pressured, and also when he's blitzed. And as you also mentioned earlier, it's just something that the Eagles have done a little more of. They've blitzed a little more, not a lot, and it hasn't been, always great, but they've been a little more creative. Jonathan Gannon is blitzes, and I think they'll be able to get to Daniel Jones and force a few turnovers, which certainly will benefit the Eagles. So I have the Eagles winning 25-18.
EJ, did you have them as a one possession victory, or did you?
I think it's 2 possession. I think I was like 10 points. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me here. Yeah.
I think I'm with you there as well. I think if Jonathan Gannon can dial up pressure successfully against Daniel Jones, again, like what Jeff alluded to, not great when facing pressure, and I think it goes back to the offensive line. And then
we got a guest appearance, Marcus Hayes cameo.
Marcus Hayes. EJ, go get his game prediction.
Yeah, you got a prediction? I don't know if this is COVID friendly here.
Eagles by 1 million.
Wow, Marcus Hayes is taking the Eagles by 1 million. Write that down on your books.
Oh wow, I'm rethinking my pick now.
In case you wonder, photobombing here. He's in my spot.
I stole Marcus Hayes' seat. That means we probably should go to. Oh, we have to get your prediction, Josh. Sorry, we're not ready for a wrap.
I think I took the Eagles by about 9 or 10 points today. I think, as I was trying to say, is when Marcus popped up, man, Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, really that offensive line, they've showed out over the past month. And, despite the injuries, they really haven't slowed down that much. And I think a lot of credit goes to Jeff Stoutland and his game preparation, getting those guys ready. But I think those three main pieces right there have held it down. And my prediction is they continue to do that today. Not in New York, but we are in New Jersey. But, guys, it's time to wrap up. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Inquire Live at Game Day Central, presented by Xfinity. Be sure to stick around with us, though. Throughout the game, you'll be able to chat with us at that link in the comments section. Myself, Jeff McLane, EJ Smith, Marcus Hayes, as you just saw, and Mike Sealski are all here at MetLife Stadium. You'll be able to interact with us all throughout the game at inquire.com/GameDayCentral.
Yeah, and don't forget to join us back here next Sunday, December 5th. We will be coming to you live again at MetLife Stadium for the Eagles versus the New York Jets. Don't forget to watch us then at 11:30 a.m. on inquire.com/GameDayCentral.
Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jeff. And until then, we look forward to hearing from you guys and what you have to say. We continue the conversation every week at Inquire Live /Game Day Central, presented by Xfinity. Make sure to put your comments in there and let us know what your thoughts are on the game.
Marcus Hayes, Eagles by 1 million.
Write that down.